Six Forks Studios, located in beautiful Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the Hardison Cochran Attorneys at Law podcast. The podcast is about North Carolina personal injury, workers' compensation, and disability law. Now here's your host, Bill Campbell.
Now, I hope everybody enjoyed that new opening. Now, before we get started on today's podcast, we have an announcement about the firm. Beginning on April 23rd, the Hardison Cochran Raleigh office will be at a new location. It's not moving far, but it is moving. The new address will be 7340 Six Forks Road, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27615. Now, the only thing new is the location. We still have the same P.O. Box address, and we have the same tremendous and beautiful 919-444-4444 phone number in Raleigh. Now, after April 23rd, if you want to drop by and check out the new location, feel free to. Now, on today's show, we're going to cover a topic that we haven't yet on the podcast, and that is personal injury cases. The podcast this week is going to be a short one, but it's very informational as to what goes on after you hire a lawyer to represent you in a personal injury claim. Now, we can't speak for all lawyers, but specifically, Ben's going to talk about what happens when Hardison Cochran represents you in a claim. Hiring a personal injury lawyer is not a situation people face regularly, so there's bound to be a lot of anxiety at each step of the way. So today's podcast, we're trying to alleviate some of that anxiety. So if you're in a situation where you're thinking about hiring a personal injury lawyer, we hope this helps. Before we get started today, always remember, listening to this podcast does not create a client-attorney relationship between you and Hardison Cochran. The topics covered in this podcast are solely for informational purposes and should not be intended or taken as legal advice. If you're facing a legal situation similar to the ones discussed in this podcast, contact an attorney about your specific set of facts. Now, here's Ben Cochran on what happens after you hire Hardison Cochran to represent you in a personal injury claim.
So once you've retained Hardison Cochran to represent you in your personal injury claim, the first thing that we're going to do is make sure that we have the proper documentation and information that we can file a notice of representation with the insurance company. Predominantly, we are going to make sure that we have a one-on-one dialogue with our client to make sure that we put the insurance company on proper notice as to the nature of the injuries that we contend were caused by the defendant, their client. So what we're going to do is within the first 24 hours of retaining us, an individual case manager from our office is going to contact the client, and they're going to review all the information that we have thus far, go through the police reports, go through the medical documentation that we have currently up to date, and we will prepare a notice of representation that we're going to send over to the liable party's insurance company. Once we put them on notice, it becomes a situation to where we want to make sure our client is available in terms of being able to contact us and getting us information that we need in order to update the insurance company as to what's going on with them medically. So at that point, we take over dealing with the other side. We, as a goal, want our clients to just be able to focus and concentrate on getting better. That is what we want them to do. And we want them to give us consistent updates as to what's going on with them so we can update the insurance company. We do this as a process to make sure that the insurance company has an understanding over the severity of the injuries that our client's going through. Ultimately, the client will be placed at what's called maximum medical improvement. That means the doctors have said that our client is as good as they're going to get. At that point in time, we put all the information together and we submit it to the insurance company. And our goal at that point is to take all the documentation from the original date of injury up until that point and encapsulize it into a package to where we can claim the compensation for our client that we think they're entitled to. So once we put that together, we submit it to the insurance company, and the negotiations begin. We always hope that we're able to negotiate a reasonable, adequate settlement without having to go to court. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. If there's a dispute or disagreement as to the value of the case, the next step is to file a lawsuit. And we do that on behalf of our client, and we work with our client to ultimately bring that claim to an adequate resolution, if it must be through litigation.
We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hardison Cochran Attorneys at Law podcast. If you would like a free consultation about you or a loved one's legal situation, please go to lawyernc.com and fill out the contact form or live chat with us. For a full list of episodes, please visit lawyernc.com/podcast.